Okay. So, hi everyone. So, welcome to another episode of Book Cafe podcast. I'm extremely thrilled to have our first reader enthusiast on the show, and he can be best described as a globe-trotting itinerant musician. He is none other than Ash Ravens. So, Ash, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am doing really good. How about yourself? I'm excited to be here. How about
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah, likewise. So Ash, I think that first of all, let me just start by making a confession to our viewers and our listeners that we do actually know each other for a very long time. I've known you for maybe close to 20 years or above, so we are no strangers
Yep.
to each other. But wow, it's been such a interesting journey that the both of us have had. You know, you as a musician and me trying to do this, uh, this YouTube.
Yeah.
But let me just backtrack a little bit and let our audience know a little bit about your background before we jump into your favorite books, because this is, after all, a book podcast. So I will be asking you a lot
Yeah.
about your books. But before that, let's
Sure.
take a step back and talk a little bit about your work in general.
Yeah.
So for our viewers who and listeners who
Yeah.
may be just discovering you for the first time, do please tell us a little bit about yourself, where you were born, where you were brought up, and your education background, etc. And then we'll dive into the rest of the material. So please do go ahead.
Absolutely. Sure. So I was born in Bangladesh, uh, brought up in Dhaka, and as you know, we know each other from Dhaka and from North University. So that's true for my undergrads, and studied there for 4 years. Graduated, was following one of the many paths chosen for us by our parents, engineer, or if you go study business. So I was one of the failures. I was studying business administration with you as well. Um, so after doing that, joined HR in Grameen Phone. Before that, worked in Citibank NA branch in Bangladesh. Anyway, that was a long time ago. So joined Grameen Phone, worked in HR for Grameen Phone for 6 years, and on the side, all this time as I have music as like a secondary thing, as a hobby. So I've been playing guitar in bands. We had I had a couple of bands that I was working with in Dhaka. Um, After working in HR in Grameenphone, I decided to call it quits and I decided to pursue music as a career. So pretty much cooked up all my money, all the savings so far, and went to the US, Los Angeles Music Academy, to study music. And then that was around the year 2012. Yeah. And as that's a jumping point, as a background, if you might say. And then since then onwards, I've been kind of I've lived in the LA and did a couple of bands there, and then migrated to Australia 2014. uh, Worked in music industry, teaching guitar, doing audio engineering and producing bands till the pandemic hit. And then in 2021 we decided to move to Canada, and now I'm in Ottawa, Canada, doing the same thing, doing pretty much the same thing, working as an audio tech at a live music venue, um, you know, still writing songs, still performing, all that stuff.
Wow. So you
It
sound
brings
like,
us up to date, right? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So that is quite the journey. Now, Ash,
Yeah.
for our viewers who and listeners who
Yeah.
may not be aware, so
Mhm.
Grameen Phone in Bangladesh
Yeah.
is the number one
Mhm.
telecommunications company, and they are
Right.
affiliated
Yeah.
with Grameen Telecom, which is owned by the Nobel
Yeah.
laureate Professor Dr. Mohammed Yunus, and
Yeah.
Telenor,
Telenor.
right? From
Telenor Norway.
exactly. So
Yeah. Telenor.
picking up a job at Grameen Phone, which is a dream for a lot of young graduates, myself included. I did eventually end up in
Yeah.
telecommunications like yourself. I did work for Wari Telecom and
Yeah.
Airtel and Robi Axiata. But Grameen
Right. Yeah.
always had, yeah, but
Yeah.
Grameen Phone always had, it was always the cream of the crop, right? So it must have been a really a big decision for yourself to be able to let go of something that everybody else as a young graduate in Bangladesh was aspiring to. So in that sense,
Hmm.
what I'd like to ask is, how supportive was your family when you made the decision to actually leave an
Hmm.
institution like Grameen Phone? It must have been, it may not have been easy,
Hmm.
if I may say so, right?
Yeah, you certainly may say so. You'll be 100% on the money on that one, because there was no support about that decision at all. Yeah, other than, I guess, my mom, but our moms, that she didn't actively stop me from doing it, but other than her, it was obstacles everywhere. So I didn't get any support regarding that. But I decided to do it anyway.
Mm,
I don't
absolutely.
know if you want to dive into why. I think our personalities develop when we are younger, and I've always been a bit of a I've all the entrepreneurial spirit, you may say, and I've like I think I fare better on my thing doing things on my own, rather than like trying to cut myself my edges off to fit in a box. So I think that is some where it comes from, to take my future into my own hands, and try what I want to do myself, and rather not fit into the box that society has marked for me. Hey, this is where you go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And definitely
Yeah.
concur and agree with you on that. That I think that our society in general in
Hmm.
Bangladesh, and it might be true for the rest of South Asia as well. We
Hmm.
do have parents and guardians who try to box us into saying that, this is
Yeah.
your world and you can't stray from it. But kudos to you that you've actually managed to do that, because a lot of
Yeah.
uh, young people in your situation may have actually thought differently or second guessed themselves. But you've definitely gone ahead and followed what you may call your dream. And you did mention that your mom was extremely supportive of that. So I'm sure that that must have given you that extra courage to go ahead and pursue something that, even though the rest of your
Yeah.
friends or family members may have been thinking, "Oh my God, what a crazy move to actually give up on Grameen Phone, go somewhere else," right?
Yeah. Well, in terms of if we had to pick supporters, other than family, well, family in the traditional terms of family as we define it, my then girlfriend, who is now my wife, thankfully, has been extremely supportive since day one. Day one. So he has been an active vocal supporter for this thing, for this journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So yeah, it always helps, obviously your better half has been on this journey with you, so it has been a very
Yeah,
long journey for the both of
yeah,
you. So Ash, just coming
yeah, for
back
sure.
to so we're talking about the year 2005, is this like right after you graduated? Was this 2005 we're talking, right? When you left?
2004. I graduated 2004, 2004. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So, at what point did you
Mm.
decide to actually leave Bangladesh? Was that during, right after you had left Grameenphone, or was this did this come a bit later
No,
than after you left?
oh, it did come. Well, the decision was the decision to do it was there since I think 20, or maybe a bit earlier. I just wanted to wait to hit a certain uh, um, tenure to 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 save up some money. But the decision was there like about 1.5 years before I actually quit, because I just wanted to take some time, turnaround time, to plan what I wanted to do. It was not an impulsive decision, for sure. It was a planned departure.
Hmm,
So
absolutely.
2011, I say.
Okay,
Yeah, 2010, 2011, yeah.
understood. So when was the year that you actually left Bangladesh? Which year would that be?
2012.
2012. Okay, so it's been exactly 10 years since you've
2012.
left the country.
It
Now, I
has.
have to ask you,
Yeah.
living 10 years abroad, you've obviously lived in three different countries, and
Yeah.
Bangladesh included would make it the fourth. So, if I can remember correctly, you
Yeah.
first went to the US, then Australia, and now you're in Ottawa,
Hmm.
Ontario, Canada.
Hmm.
So is there anything about
Canada.
Bangladesh that you
Yeah.
really miss having lived abroad for the last 10 years? Food, family, etc., anything at all?
Well, yeah, yeah. To be if I had to pick up turn things, is would be the colors, and that means in terms of like our festivities, and like now is FIFA season. I mean, World Cup season. So that's something that you outside of countries like us. So like Canada, nobody knows what's happening here. Well, yeah. So those kind of things, you know what I mean? So it's like it's so festive when it's this season. It's festive when the Bengali New Year comes around, the Poila Boishak. Eid is pretty fun. Those kind of things. And in terms of food, I'm not a big foodie, but like some very special Bangladeshi things like cha and shingara, those things you always miss.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I should
And
also
adda, the main, sorry, I started to cut you through.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
think my wife, we both miss is the adda culture, where
Okay,
where friends can come over and not do anything, just like
just sit
adda
down.
fine and talk. I don't know, for like by adda we mean we just like talk about nonsense and for hours over tea and maybe finger food and stuff, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I also have to make another confession to our listeners and our viewers that
Mhm.
we debated exactly when we wanted to have this interview so that we could squeeze in the football games of the FIFA World Cup and not miss out on anything.
Exactly.
Try and stick to our 1 hour
Exactly.
interview time so that we have time to, catch
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
games. So yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. Australia, the US, and Canada, obviously, there are other sports which
Hmm.
take precedence over FIFA World Cup, in football in general,
Yeah.
in our part of the world.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I can
Hmm.
fully understand that that's definitely something that you would be missing, including the festivities. But you must have, during your time in Australia and the US and Canada, have incurred new festivities to replace, Eid and Poila Boishak. Like I'm sure that Thanksgiving
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
must have become something
Yep.
which you've embraced during your stay there, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's,
Yeah,
and the whole summer culture where you make extra effort to go out and enjoy your summer.
yeah, mm, exactly.
Yeah,
So
that kind of stuff. So
yeah, okay,
definitely. Yeah.
for sure. So Ash, just taking this forward, now that we've understood a little bit about your background and where you're coming from, I think that it's very important for our listeners and our viewers to get an
Yeah.
idea. What exactly is the kind of music that you make, and what is the kind of music that you enjoy
Hmm.
listening to the most?
Yeah, certainly. So I'll yeah. So the kind of music I make falls on a broad umbrella of rock music. Songs would be could be categorized like rock blues, rock pop, things like that. Something in the, if I had to put an example, something roughly similar to John Mayer or somebody from like Keith Urban, people like that. It's very guitar based, with yeah, very guitar based, like a rock band thing. It's not too heavy. Sometimes we do get a little bit, but other than that, it's mostly like firmly in the star in the ballpark of Eric Clapton, John Mayer, Jimi Hendrix, on that line. And I like similar music, but my playlist is kind of crazy as well. From jazz to classical music, I kind of listen to most things, other than like hyper pop or bubblegum pop stuff. But I kind of like, I don't discriminate against any any stuff. Everything has a reason, and every music has a certain existence, is what I say. And every all of that is valid. If any music is giving somebody some kind of entertainment after a long hard day of work, it's absolutely valid. That's what I say.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Mhm.
so Ash, just tell me something. You do write your own music,
I
or
do. Yeah.
write a lot of poetry. That I know for sure because
Yeah.
had our poetry writing sessions back in the day. But so if you had
Poetry
to pick,
conversation. Yeah.
absolutely a lot of conversations with regards to poetry.
Yeah.
So if you had to pick between singing, songwriting, and guitar playing, which of these three, out of these three activities, which one would you say that you enjoy the most? Out of, if you had to pick one of these three.
I do. I do enjoy. It's a hard question. I. It's not a straight answer because I'll tell you why. Because I've been playing guitar for about 20 plus years now. So guitar has become an extension of me, and it's very easy, and it's super easy. It's for me. It's just a part of me now. I can get lost in it very easily. So that's one thing I really enjoy. But singing is new to me, and I'm still learning. But when you there's so much joy in learning a new thing, getting out of your box, as I said again, like breaking box, doing something new, and you know, overcoming new obstacles and and FIFA reference anyway. So yeah, so you know what I mean. So that's also enjoyable for me. And then songwriting is also I've written songs since I was like songwriting is really enjoy songwriting, and I try to do it as a routine. If I try to do like write something every day or a week, as much as I can. So that's also enjoyable. I really don't know how to what I want, what I enjoy the most. I really don't. It's a hard one. Yeah,
Yes.
it really is a hard one.
Yeah.
Do I enjoy what I know? Do I enjoy what I can do very easily, or learning a new skill and putting tools under my belt? I can't decide on those two.
Understood. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so we know that there are a lot of musicians out there who uh, try to venture out into more than just confining themselves to just one particular instrument. So the guitar
Mhm.
is obviously your instrument of choice, but have you ever tried branching out into adding other instruments as well to your repertoire, or are you happy with just doing the guitar bit?
Well, singing is an instrument. It's one of the hardest instrument to master. I think that's the new one. Other than that, I play a little drums, but nothing to
To write
write
home
home about.
about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So that play on words brings me to your single, Home. I had the pleasure of, listening to your music for a couple of years now. And I found
Mhm.
that the single Home was actually very lyrical and but I'm really curious to know where you came up with the lyrics for that song and how you put it all together. If you can just give our listeners an idea about how it all came about, the creative process, and where you were in your headspace when you thought of that. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, great topic and question. So it came about as a it started its seed as actually an assignment, a songwriting assignment from. So it's a 10-year process. This particular song. So in that songwriting class, we were given an assignment every week to write a song. So the first topic was home, and because it's a very common theme in a lot of songs. Anyway, so that's where I wrote the idea or the gist. But the song then and the song now is very different. So the song then had all the emotions for sure, but it was not yeah, structured. But now the song the released version 10 years later is has still the same emotions of leaving home, going somewhere you don't know, and missing people that you love. um yeah, but now it has structure. Now it has so now it has an arch or arc, story arc. As we read in the books, there's a beginning and a middle and a end. There's yeah, of characters, there's conflict, all that stuff, and resolution, right? So that's where the I won't say that it took 10 years to finish the song, because I wrote it, then shelved it, and it wasn't planned to bring this out. But when pandemic hit, I because there was much more time for us to do, introspect, I kind of brushed up on my songwriting skills even further, and brought out this. Oh, by the way, the original chorus was something I really never liked, so it never came out. I didn't want to release it. It was a different chorus, and now the chorus is, in a room full of friends, I'd still, no matter where I am, you'll still be my home. That was actually written in was it 2020 or 2021? I think it was 2021. So mid or early 2021. That's when I finally that I really liked, and I thought it summarized what I wanted to say. Yeah, and it yeah. So this 10 years of being in music, you're listening to songwriters, actively learning skills, from, I mean, reading books on songwriting, and yeah, going to workshops on songwriting. Those things helped. So that brought more structure. That's the process, he would say, for me.
Interesting, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of story arcs, so that
Mm-hmm.
obviously brings us to our next question, which is,
Yeah.
I know that you are a very avid reader, and because this is, after all, a
Yeah.
book cafe podcast channel where we
Yeah,
discuss
exactly.
books, so I
Mm.
have to ask you, Ash, at this point,
Yeah.
that in addition to your songwriting book, which you alluded to, tell us what genre
Mm.
of books that you enjoy reading the most. So just tell us a bit. Fiction, nonfiction, literary,
Yeah.
non. What do you like?
Yeah, the most I enjoy is fiction.
Hmm, interesting.
And within fiction, I do like fantasy, but not high fantasy like Lord of the Rings. But then again, I did enjoy the Game of Thrones series very, very much. I mean, the books. Who didn't? Um, but like people like Neil Gaiman, who I told you about, with the whole Sandman series and whole books. It's fantasy, but it's written in a very different way, I think. Um, those kind of things. I you know when I was a bit younger, obviously we all enjoyed Harry Potter. I like mystery and like whodunit kind of books like Sherlock Holmes and all that. Like, yeah,
Interesting.
that's the genre I enjoyed the most. The other thing is like comedy, or like genre, like stuff like Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy, or I don't know if you have ever had a chance, Douglas Adams books, who has a very interesting take on religion and that stuff. So it's interesting and funny at the same time. Pratchett, those guys.
Wonderful, wonderful. So yes, you have actually
Yeah.
traversed the entire spectrum of every popular fantasy, series that there is. So you've got Harry Potter, you've got the
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, you've got Neil Gaiman's books, you've got yes, everything. Game of
Yeah.
Thrones. Wow. So that's amazing. So
Yeah.
yes.
I actually haven't read, by the way.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. You didn't read
I
which
have not. So I actually have not. I have not read Lord of the Rings.
Okay. Okay.
That's yeah. That's something that just it skipped my radar, and I don't think I have any more time and energy to get into it at this point.
Mm, absolutely. So
Yeah.
yeah, and so I think that what you say is very true. That in our modern life, and obviously because you're working as a full-time musician, you're doing this not just as a passion but
Mhm.
also for a living. It is very challenging in our
Yeah.
modern world to try and eke out some time to do something like reading, even something that you may have enjoyed
Yeah.
so much as we may have enjoyed as kids.
Hmm.
But I think that
Right.
if I can just put in some unsolicited advice here, what I found works really well for me is to try and explore other mediums, like for example the audiobook, which I think is
Hmm.
something that in the West, and maybe it hasn't really caught on as much in Bangladesh, but whenever I speak to my friends who are living out,
Yeah.
us, they're consistently talking about audiobooks audiobook this, audiobook that, while
Yep.
driving, while cleaning the
Mm-hmm.
house. So, by any chance, have
Yeah.
you also explored this particular medium of consuming books, the audiobook or the ebook format uh, at all?
Not audiobooks. No, I have not gotten into audiobooks at all. I don't know why, but it just has happened. I do enjoy reading. I have gotten into ebooks very, very much. There's my, I don't know, there's a Kindle over there with the blue tape.
Okay.
It's breaking apart, so that's how much I use it.
Okay.
Yeah, but sure, like there's like probably 1,000 books that I probably won't be finishing in a lifetime.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so ebook is for sure. Ebooks absolutely for sure, and Kindle is great because it's not hard on your eyes. It kind of has a paper to it, and you can read it in the dark. So
Absolutely. Well,
yeah,
I
yeah.
do envy that this aspect of your living abroad and having access to books on Amazon and the Kindle. I think that
Mm-hmm.
we still haven't
Mm.
actually evolved to that particular stage in Bangladesh where we actually have books on Kindle readily available for download. So I've had to make do with Google Play.
Mm-hmm.
But I usually read it on my phone,
Right.
but I find that it's quite because it also has a read aloud feature on it. So that's also something that is
Mm.
helpful. But Ash, tell me something. Just doubling back to what you alluded to earlier with regards to songwriting books. Can you tell us more about
Mm-hmm.
what exactly was that book that you referred to that helped you a lot with your songwriting in general? Can you tell us more about that particular book, regards to songwriting?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's called this particular book is called Writing Better Lyrics, and I'm doing a cardinal sin of forgetting. Give me 1 second. Mm, give me just writing better lyrics. Ah, Pat Pattison. So Pat Pattison is a professor in Berklee College of Music in Boston. Um, so he has a book called Writing Better Lyrics, and I've always like learned music from books and internet.
Which is
It's always been like I've always looked for things that I can learn from and searched for books that I can learn from. I actually never went to like I did for a very brief time. I went to in Bangladesh. Most of my learning in Bangladesh was self-taught. This particular same book is by him, and right, you get more structured. You get more like how to overcome certain hurdles in the writing. So that's what helped me very, very much. Yeah,
absolutely.
and he has other books too. There's another book called Rhyming on Rhyming, Essential Guide to Rhyming. Yeah, that's another one that helped. There's yeah, there's one called Songwriting Without Boundaries. Those are workbooks as well. So they give you challenges like and tasks which you can do. So as with anything, the more you hone your skill, the better you get at it, right? The more you sharpen your axe, the better it cuts the wood. So I've always used books like that to help my craft. It's a long journey, and I have still a long way to go, but
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that what you said is very true. Education is obviously finite because you do your 4 years of college at university, graduate, but learning is something
mm-hmm,
that you have for your entire life. Learning is never ending, and it's great to
yeah,
see that even that you still got your books to help you out with your musical career. So Ash, tell me one thing that
yeah,
most of the time when I, for example, read, I have to confess that I usually prefer nonfiction books because I'm as I do
mm-hmm,
this full time, I'm always looking for something new
mm-hmm,
that are picking people's brains, and because I don't have access to, an Elon Musk or a Steve Jobs or Tim Cook in my everyday life, since I'm not speaking to them.
mm-hmm,
The next best
mm-hmm.
thing that I have in picking their brain is to actually read their biographies, autobiographies, and to try
for
and,
sure.
extract some best practices out of them. So when you read, when you mentioned that you read a lot of fiction, would you say that you're reading more for an escape, or because you're trying to learn something new? What would be your answer to that question?
It's actually both, because it is an escape, but when you keep on, it's learning by permeation. So when you keep on like reading, and yeah, when you're surrounded by stuff that you want to learn, it will seep through your consciousness. So I try to by really like descriptive writers, and people who can write, you know how would I say, like fiction, obviously. So songwriting is about fiction. Not I haven't experienced everything he writes about. I mean, you you can write 100 love songs in from 100 different angles. That doesn't mean that you have experienced all of them. But you know, so that's why when I read fiction by great writers, how they use a certain phrase, how the phrase has ups and downs, those things, the more I read, it kind of, I can see that it to my own writing. So it is an escape. It is something, I read before bed for sure, but they slowly and surely, I do learn from them.
For sure, for sure. And, Ash, if I can
Yeah.
ask you one question with regards to, um,
Mhm.
how do I put this? There was this. I'm reminded of this line from a Bon Jovi song where he says that, like the poet feels the pain. How important or
Yeah. Like,
unimportant is it for an artist to actually go through, pain or loss in one's life in order to become wholesome or a better musician? What would be your answer to that? Whether pain is actually a necessity to be a better musician?
interesting question. And I can certainly appreciate coming from, because a lot of it is true. Um, and it is, yeah, I definitely wouldn't say that it's not true, but I also wouldn't say that it's necessary to be a great musician to go through pain. Because you, as maybe a music consumer, you probably like some by your favorite artists, and that you think they've gone through a lot of pain, and that's why they're great. But there are also, me as a musician who's more in the industry, I know there are a lot of songs, amazing, beautiful lyrics, and there are a lot of artists as well who might not have gone through pain necessarily to create good music. Do you
Right.
know what I mean? And the whole pain artist, very prevalent in rock music, and especially the alternative and the grunge scene that we kind of grew up with when we were younger, like the Eddie Veders and the Kurt Cobains, for sure. And that is of course true. But then you also have people, a lot of songwriters that I mean, um, long list to mention. Well, yeah, like John Mayer and Keith Urban. I necessarily don't think they have gone through a lot of pain to create really good music that they have done. You know what I mean? And yeah, and especially when you work professional. So I'm not a full-time artist yet, or so I can't necessarily manufacture pain. I've already lived a long, big, at this point I can't manufacture pain, right? But I can relate to people through empathy. I can paint a picture with words.
Yeah, definitely. I think I fully agree with you on that, and it's so. But uh, because you are in this line, so I suppose you would definitely know better. But you mentioned that you're not doing this full time. So does that mean you're still holding down a day job? Have I understood that correctly?
No, no, my so my day job is within the music industry. I'm an audio professional, audio engineer, and I produce music for other people. By full time, I mean like I'm not a full time performing artist.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm not like at least right now. I have songs, but I have not been like touring with them and all that stuff. But
Interesting.
my work is within the industry.
Definitely. So,
Yeah.
so that I think that reminds me of a comparison with Edison, the great Thomas Alva Edison,
Hmm.
where it said that
Yeah.
he was a genius for his time, and yet it
Yeah.
was all everything that he did had something to do with electricity, right? Whether it is the light bulb or the filament
Yeah.
or a DC
Yeah.
current. So it's good to see that your genius is also with regard to that
Well,
particular
yeah.
industry. So that's a good
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, when you come from, yeah, so when you come from like a country like Bangladesh, which we're still a developing nation, and imagine back 10 to 15 years ago. And my goal my goal was never to like, technically my goal was, I would say, to work within the industry and not work not get stuck at a job that I'm not happy with. Not, yeah, you know what I mean? So I didn't want to do a corporate job, but I was that knew that I would want to work within the music industry. So I was a teacher for a long time. I was playing sessions with other musicians and playing in bands for other musicians in Australia and Canada. And now I'm moving towards the audio and production side of things. So
Exactly. So,
that's my that goal.
definitely. So, Ash, coming back to what I alluded to in the early part of this interview, that you are an
Hmm.
itinerant musician, meaning you have gone around the world. You've experienced Australia, the U.S., and Canada. How
Hmm.
would you compare the music scene in these three countries and the taste in music that people have? Would you say that they're very similar, or would you say that they're as diverse as human beings, and it has nothing to do with their geographic location? So, how would you respond?
Yeah, yeah. I would say they are diverse. Yeah, still likes the rock and roll a little bit more than the U.S. and Canada does. Um, there, yeah. So Australia is still a little bit more rocky, but there are also there are a lot of new acts coming out of Australia, but it is diverse. It's pretty much the same. And then the industry is so big, you can find your niche. It's so huge, and my niche has always been like blues rock and singer songwriter kind of things. But there is also a whole hop and modern dance music and all that stuff, and it's the same, pretty much the same everywhere.
Mhm. Exactly. And just hypothetically, let's come to a very fun question.
Yeah.
You know that very coincidentally, a couple
Hmm.
of musicians actually died at the age of 27. One of them is Kurt Cobain. The
Yeah.
second is
Not a
Jim.
couple. Not a couple, actually.
A lot.
There's it's called the 27 Club.
The
It's
27
more than a
Club,
couple.
right?
Yeah, Janis Joplin, Kurt Cobain. There's a guitarist called Randy Rhoads, and
Amy Winehouse.
more some other. Amy
Yeah, the
Winehouse. Yeah,
20,
it's called the
yeah, the
27 Club.
27 Club. So
Yeah,
I've always found,
yeah,
as a student of history, I've always found this very fascinating. That is
yeah.
this just a coincidence, or is there something else going on, that something supernatural that we, as normal, regular human
Hmm.
beings, aren't aware of? But if you had a
Yeah,
choice to bring somebody back
yeah,
from the 27 Club,
yeah.
one person, who would it be?
From the 27.
Yes, from the 27.
For me personally, it would be the guitar. Yeah, it would be the guitarist Randy Rhoads, who played with Ozzy Osbourne in his time. But he was also like a very very accomplished guitarist. For me personally.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
I would have assumed that you may have picked
yeah.
Jimi Hendrix, but does he come a close second?
Is Jimi Hendrix in 27 Club as
Yes,
well? Oh,
yes,
really?
yes. 1943
I
to 1971.
oh
Yeah. Jim Morrison. I
damn
personally would have brought back Jim
right.
Morrison because I just his personality.
He
But
Yes, he used to say, I for some reason it skipped him out. Well, yeah, he would be a very close second. for
Okay,
sure.
very close second. Okay, so I've given you something to think about. So that's something I will take on notice, that yes, I have given you something to
Yeah,
think about. So
yeah,
now,
yeah. No, I got a bit scared when I turned 27 too.
oh, you did.
I'm kidding.
Please tell
I'm
us. Tell us about
kidding. No,
that.
no, no, I'm kidding.
Okay, so it's pretty wonderful. Well, we're glad that you're still with us because obviously, who knows that whether it was the drugs or whether it was depression, or, I know that you've also alluded to mental health and well-being as being very important. And obviously, back in
Yeah,
our days, it wasn't
yeah.
really well understood. But I think that society
No.
as a whole has become a lot kinder. But Ash, can you tell us a little bit about your, and it'll be a little personal, but tell us a little bit about your own mental health when you were going through that epiphany of having to, leave Grameen phone and then take the path of the musician. So, what kind of headspace were you in at that time, and what was your mental health like at that time?
Yeah, so I actually quit Grameen Phone and took this decision because of mental health, because I was not happy, and I was far from happy. Obviously, I was depressed, and I had many a days of like just not wanting to wake up, not wanting to get up from to work. Um, so I know that we didn't have awareness then, but or like it wasn't discussed, but knew that this I can't do this forever. And I mean, personalities grow at a young age, and I've always wanted a life that's a little bit different, or life my own way. So um, the like once I started having breakdowns and not wanting to go to work and not wanting to get up, and it was not just a random day or it was just very regular. I decided that this can't go on. I can't let this happen to myself. I don't want to be. Yeah. So that's when, even if there was no conscious awareness, I kind of probably took the right decision. Not to say that we don't have mental challenges in this line of work. I'm 100% sure that you know that I do, and some songs do come out of those things. But in general, I'm happier. Um, some days are hard, some days are not. But in general, I'm more happier. And back then, when I did quit, I felt, but I did quit with a plan, and I did. Um, that's where the whole being organized and being clever about your decisions do come in play. It have a supportive partner at that time as well. So we kind of planned. I kind of planned, and she was there to support me to do this whole arch of turning the whole ship around. And it took me 1.5 years to do that. Yeah.
And I think that we as fans are extremely grateful that you were able to cross that bridge
Mm.
and overcome it. Ash, I'm going to ask you another question, and this will be another personal question. It may be a
Yeah.
tough one, but please feel free to either answer it or not answer it.
No, sure. Let's
Yeah,
see.
and so the question is that obviously, as a Bangladeshi immigrant, living in Australia, the US, Canada, there must have been days when it was tough as an outsider, quote unquote,
Hmm.
to be
Hmm.
taken seriously by your
Hmm.
audience in your locality
Hmm.
or your new country that you've emigrated to. Tell us a little bit
Hmm.
about that. How hard or difficult or easy was it to be an outsider musician living abroad?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question. It's important that we discuss it. It's doesn't matter if it's personal, but it's an important thing. So it wasn't a walk in the park, because anywhere you go, you gotta prove your worth. And when you're not doing it anymore for as a hobby, and then there's money involved, there's like paying audience involved. So in Australia, I was more of a, yeah, in Australia, most of my Australian time was as a session or as a guitarist for what do you say, for another artist, right? So and this artist is selling tickets to the audience, and the audience is paying good money to see a good show. So they will want a show that's worth the audience's money. Do you know what I mean? So I still feel it's a little bit different back home in Bangladesh. Anyway, I've been out of the scene for 10 years, so I don't want to say. So I always had to prove my worth, and it would probably be the same for anybody in Australia. But to get to the point of proving your worth as a brown musician, it does take time, and it took me a while to in Australia. And it could be for many reasons. It could be you don't see many immigration pursuing music as a career, right? So musicians hiring me was probably not very convinced that I could do a good job. So it like there has been rejection, and rejection is part of the process. And I've done well with some bands, and I've done not so well with other bands. And it's also, there's chemistry involved, there's egos involved. There's always, when you're a sideman, you always want to take a step back and let the singer shine, but still then there's some ego involved, right? So even if you're not giving off a vibe, the singer might get a vibe that you're trying to overshadow them. But so those kind of things, I mean, it's human psychology. So it has been hard in Australia for sure, but then that's one thing. I don't know if it was. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to claim. I never claimed a race card in any of part of my life, but there might be some like doubt. And then when I hit Canada, I hit the ground running in Canada. My experience so far in Canada has been much more accepting, and I have a lot of songs under my belt, and I'm kind of blooming. I mean, changing my role over as a front person, as an artist myself. I've gotten way more acceptance, and kind of the city of Ottawa has kind of embraced me. I've received grant and award from the city of Ottawa as a songwriter, musician, creator. And I've already performed in one of the TV channels, a couple of TV channels here, one in Ottawa, one in a suburb nearby. So in Canada, the experience has been a little bit more positive, I think. But it's probably also because Canada and North American continent is a little bit more diverse than Australia was. Australia was still a little bit more homogeneous rather than Canada. So.
Yes, absolutely, indeed. And I can say from personal experience as well, having lived in both the US and Canada, I have not lived in Australia before, but whenever I was in a city like Toronto, I personally never felt like an outsider, because every other person, person seemed to look similar to me. So yeah, I can completely understand where you're coming from. And I'm glad to see that
Absolutely.
Your experience in Canada is a lot better than what it could have been in Australia.
Yeah, you know that they do say the Canadians are the nicest people, right?
Oh yeah.
There's a myth going. It's true. I'll say it's true. They are very nice people.
Very nice people. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
And they're very compliments, and they're not. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
well, that's wonderful to hear. So I'm glad that things are still there. I think I left a long time ago. 16 years it's been, but I'm glad that you still found it to be exactly the way it was when I left it. Now, Ash, I have one more question, and I'm trying to uh, pitch it for the young audience that may be watching us. If you could pick a book for a young person to read, doesn't have to be related to music, but if you could pick one book that you feel that every young person should read, what is your answer to that?
Personally, I would the name that flashed across my mind when you asked that question, I'm gonna go with that. It's God's Debris by Douglas Adams. Was it Douglas Adams? Yeah. No, it's Scott Adams. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Yes, I
That's
remember you
it.
mentioned it.
I get fooled. It's
For
Scott Adams.
God Adams, God's
Yeah,
Debris. Okay. Can you tell us what the book
God's Debris by.
is? Yeah. What is the
So
book
it's
for those of us who don't know?
sure. It's a fiction experiment, and it's written in a like a story art. And thought experiment is, or the story goes like, somebody meets this wise old man in a while delivering food for them, and they get into a conversation. And the thought experiment is, if God is almighty, all powerful, all knowing, what he knows, and he can do anything at all, and he knows what has already happened and what will happen in the future, and he is all powerful, what is left there to do for God? What is one challenge that, say, or it can be something that's challenging for them, for God, right? Whoever God you believe in. So the thought experiment is that the one challenge left for God to do is to destroy itself. And that's where the things, can God destroy itself?
Wow.
Can God recreate itself? So it's
That,
it's
that is
it's really thought provoking.
mind-boggling. Yes, that is mind-boggling, and I think that
you
that
should you should really get you should really get
I
do
know.
this.
I think
Yeah,
that is definitely something worth pondering over, and that's going straight
yeah,
into my bucket list as well as my reading
yeah,
list. And I hope
yeah.
that anybody
Do
our young
you?
audience.
Sorry, you finish your thought and then
Oh, no,
we'll
no.
talk.
I'm just
Sorry, I
saying that that's
spoke.
going to go into my bucket list and my reading list, and I hope that anybody who is watching or listening will definitely take that recommendation seriously and do likewise. So you had a question, yeah.
No, my question was, do you, if you don't mind reading PDFs, I can send it to you.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I would I never say no to free books. Just like some people probably say
Yeah.
don't say no to a free lunch. So but
Do
yeah, I would love to read it sometimes. So do please send to me. So Ash, our hour is almost up, but before we let you go,
hmm hmm
do please let us know where people can find you on social media. Where can they find you to get in touch with you or just
Absolutely.
follow you?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm all over social media. If you just search Ash Ravens, it's just Ash Ravens on Facebook. I'm on Instagram as Ash Ravens as well, Twitter as well, Ash Ravens. So, and Spotify and all the streaming medias as well. And I also have my own website, ashravens.com. Yeah, just Google search on that name and I should come up.
Mhm. Fantastic, fantastic. So, Ash, I just want to wrap up by saying that we thank you for being on this podcast with us. You've been a wonderful guest. It's been a privilege and a pleasure to have you. And as an old friend and as a patriotic Bangladeshi, I just want to say that your success in Australia, the US, and Canada is also our success because the more you shine, the better we look. So kudos to you, my friend, and good luck to you with everything that you're doing. I wish you all the best for all your future projects and your future endeavors.
Thank you, Omar. Thanks for having me on your podcast, and I wish you all the success with all the new things that you've been doing. And it's been really wonderful seeing you taking those steps. And it's like, yeah, I'm having fun on your cricket page, on your book page. I mean, there's enjoyment there for sure. For me personally, my journey is still a long way to go, but I mean, the journey is the destination. So, but thank you for the well wishes. I mean,
The journey is the
it's
destination.
been,
Yes, yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Okay, my friend. So we'll be in touch and let's catch up soon. All right. Bye for
we'll
now.
be in touch.